Hi, this is David Raffoff again, going over building a game using Ruby and Gosu. I'm going to give you just a quick preview of what that looks like here. So yeah, just a simple 2D kind of like tile-based game. Just run through it a little bit more here and on to the next level. So yeah, something pretty basic, but a nice little project to get started with learning Ruby and doing a little bit of game programming. So in the last video, I went through how to set up running tests on each build to make sure it's passing. If you're interested in catching up with where we are in the project, if you take a look at my YouTube channel, you'll see some earlier videos here in the series. I actually have a fourth one that's not up yet. And over here, I'll include these links in the comments or in the description of the video, but here is all the code for the project. In the last video, we added this build status badge from CodeShip, and on this video, I thought it'd be another fun little thing to do to basically try to optimize the development environment a little bit. So we're not going to be writing any code on the game in this video, but helping us speed things up a little bit for when we are writing code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new branch here, and I'm going to call it add guard, or actually I'm going to call it feature automatically run specs. So what we're trying to do here is right now, if we want to run the specs for this project, we basically have to run RSpec, and it's going to go out and run all of the specs in the project. So what would be nicer is if we could basically leave this open down here, and as we're working on the project up here, maybe we have. Let me just grab an example here. So maybe for board position, we have a board position spec. And ideally, we would just have this in its own pane. So here we've got the spec on the right and the code on the left that we're testing. And what we kind of want to do is, as we make changes, we just want to see the specs get run again and know that they're passing. And that'll keep us from having to stop and run the specs every time. And it'll also let us just make nice little small changes continuously and know that we're on the right path, and just kind of generally speed things up, make things feel a little bit nicer. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So if you worked in Ruby before, or if you haven't, there's this tool known as guard, and basically what it does is it watches your file system for changes, and you can tell it which kind of changes you're interested in, and depending on what files are changed or where they're changed or what kind of changes are made, you can react in different ways. So the particular thing we're interested in is the RSpec. I don't know what they call these things, plugins. I don't really know, but we're interested in using guard RSpec, which just relies on guard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to include this gem over here in the gem file. And I don't know if that'll work. I assume it'll install guard as a dependency, but let's just try it out. So let's do a bundle. So bundle will go through our gem file and figure out which gems need to be installed. Let's see what it's doing. So yeah, it looks like it's reaching out and grabbing quite a few things. So here it's pulling in some other dependencies. So okay, now we have that. Let's go ahead and run the init for RSpec. Okay. Okay, so if we look at the output down here, we can see it generated a guard file for it, which has all the settings about what should be watched and what shouldn't be watched, and how to react to that. Wow, it has a lot. Actually looks like a lot of this stuff defaults to Rails, a Rails kind of setup, which we don't really want. So I'm going to take a look and see what other setups they have down here. So it looks like this is actually what we want. So this is a kind of standard Ruby gem project. So let's try this. I'm actually just going to blow away this whole file. Well, let's try it just, I'll leave the comments in there for now. Let's just see what happens. Okay. All right, and then I can actually remember how you get it to kick off on its own. Let me just try running bundle exec RSpec. See what it does. See if it just runs RSpec once. Okay, so we need to do something else to get it started. So it looks like we could do it with a rake file. So I'm curious if I just make a change over here if it'll do anything. It won't. So it's not watching things yet. We need to actually get the watching set up. Okay, so figured out what was going on here. Basically, if you just run the guard initialization for RSpec like that, it's going to use kind of like system-wide gems, but we want to restrict it to the ones for this project. So we would just do this bundle exec guard init RSpec. I have some shortcuts set up for that, so I would do like some aliases set up for that. So I would do like BE for bundle exec guard init RSpec. So anyway, I've already done that. Really, the file's the same. So I went back and made sure that it just had the things that we wanted. It didn't have all the Rails Rails related things, which looks like it just might set up by default. And then, so now if we want to actually take advantage of this, what we need to do is we need to run, I'll just type the whole thing out, bundle exec guard. And that's, we can see here that it says guard RSpec is running. Guard's now watching the directory for our project here. And it's just kind of sitting here right now, not doing anything. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this down here a little bit. So say we were working on this class or on this spec and we were making changes. So say for example, I just add a space and save that. We should see that everything runs fine and passes. So down here we can see finished in a hundredth of a second, 6 examples, 0 failures. If I was to go over here and change this to 5, we should see that fail. So now we have 6 examples and 1 failure, and it's showing us the line number for that. It's basically showing us line 17 because it's this whole block with expectations that's failing. And then I can just revert this back to be 2, save it again, and we could see it's being run every time the spec save. We could also see it run by just putting a code change over here on the class itself, and now we can see that it's failing. Expected truthian got false, and so now if I undo that change, save it again, we can see that it's passing. So yeah, this is a really nice tool for just making really fast changes and having confidence doing it. It's nice, it just kind of automatically runs everything for you. So yeah, I mean, I highly recommend using it. There's some other things that you can use Guard for to watch for changes, like if you need to, if you have like some kind of asset pipeline set up that you want to be triggered every time you make a change. So say for example, eventually it might make sense for us to actually have separate files for every image. So maybe like a separate file for each stance that this character's in. But every time we update one of those, have the project automatically generate the sprite sheet for us. Because using a sprite sheet, loading one sprite sheet is much more efficient than loading 100 individual images. So that's just another example of something you might want to use it for. In web development, it's pretty common to maybe write your like styles and with one technology like Sass and have it automatically converted into cascading style sheets into CSS, or some people do it with JavaScript. They'll write their JavaScript, and maybe it used to be really common to write in CoffeeScript and then have it automatically convert over to JavaScript, and that's just another place where Guard, which is just constantly monitoring your system, your file system for changes, can really help out with stuff like that. But yeah, watching for changes to specs or the code under test and having it automatically run is pretty much always really helpful. So yeah, I think that's probably where I'm going to end this one. I might take a quick look at this deprecation warning here. Maybe we can knock that out really fast. So it's saying use stub from RSpec mocks. Oh, using stub from RSpec mocks old should syntax without explicitly enabling the syntax is deprecated. Use the new expect syntax. Yeah, so we want to fix it. We don't want to ignore the deprecated stuff. So let's just take a look at that real quick. So that is on board position spec line 19. Okay, so it doesn't like that we're using stub. So let's see how it wants us to do this. I wonder if we can do expect board position to receive open and return true. I don't know if that's the right syntax. We'll find out. Did that pass? That did pass. And now we're not getting the, are we still getting our deprecation warning? Okay, so it's just finding another one now. So okay, let's see if we can fix that. So we're doing a similar thing down here, but returning false instead. So let's do this and return false and see what we get. And no more deprecation warnings. And I think if we hit enter here in guard, I think it'll run all the specs. Let's find out. Okay, so it's giving us more of these errors, so maybe we can just knock these out real fast. So in RSpec line 19, doing a stub, so we want to expect heart to receive sprite and return tile. So right away we can see having guard running here is really handy. It's giving us good feedback right away. And I'm just going to run everything again. We're probably going to see several of these. Heart meter spec, okay. Let's fix that one. Doesn't like, so stub is deprecated. So we're going to expect heart meter to receive hearts and return heart. Okay, that's working. Looks like there was another one of these. Heart meter spec line 9. So here we got a couple more stubs. So here we're going to want to say expect player to receive. In this case it's going to be max health and return this. And we wanted to do a similar thing for health. There's different schools of thought on it. I really like lining things up. I come from a design background, and for me, lining things up is about eliminating insignificant differences and making the significant differences stand out. So I tend to line things up. Drive some people crazy. It's just a personal preference. So I'm gonna grab this, bring it over here. Okay, and this way, if you look at these things, it's really clear. It's the same basic structure. We're dealing with two different things. We're returning kind of two different things, but generally we're doing something that's very similar with both of those. So I'm just going to save that. Okay, so now we got a failure. What is our failure? Okay, so I'm just going to back up. We broke something, so I'm just going to start by doing the smallest change I can. So instead of running this, I'm going to run this. Okay, so I think what's going on is because I'm calling max health in here, it's actually receiving the message twice. So I don't know what the best way is to deal with that. I'm going to try doing that. Looks like that still doesn't work. Okay, so this one I'm going to have to take a look at a little bit more. So I guess I'll just have to leave that in there for now. But anyway, yeah, so we have guard going. We can see it's giving us nice feedback right away down here on all these changes we've been making. So anyway, pretty cool little tool, and we'll use it as we're going through and making more changes on the project and adding features to the game. So thanks for following along. If you haven't seen all the videos in this series already, you can hop over to my YouTube page. There is actually a fourth video recorded, which isn't uploaded yet. But I'm trying to add videos pretty regularly, like every few days or at least one a week or something, with just some small improvements. Hoping to get caught up with the stuff that I have that isn't committed yet here pretty quickly, so we can kind of move on to doing some new interesting things. But yeah, if you start from the beginning, I mean, the first video tracks the creation of the project, and there's no code in there to start with, so it's a nice way to either pick up some Ruby or pick up test-driven development, or just get a peek into building a nice little simple game. So anyway, if you like this, throw a like on the video, and drop a comment too if there's something you want to know more about. I might be glossing over some things here, just because I'm kind of used to doing this stuff. So let me know if there's something that you're interested in seeing another video on, or if you have questions about where this is heading, or any suggestions, just go ahead and throw those on there. Really appreciate that. And thanks for following along.